Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are ending another year. 2023 is only a day left of it, really, by the time this goes up. Um, so a lot of stuff came out this year, and a lot of it is good actually. And like every year, we are here to kind of talk about the stuff that we like the most, the stuff, and some of the stuff that we didn't really like, and or some stuff that we just feel like deserves a mention.
Hmm.
So, Wolf, you have your list ready?
Yeah.
Well, just to get the bad out of the way, we are first starting with our disappointment of the year. Wolf, what did you choose that this year that pissed you off?
There's not a lot that came out this year that made me go, God, this was terrible, right? There's some stuff that came out this year that made me go, wasn't great, wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but it wasn't like the worst thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I suppose it's easy to say Nine Realms, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's
I guess
easy
this
to
is a
say that.
thing that we did with. It is one of those things that I forgot to mention that while what we choose doesn't necessarily have to have come out or debuted in 2023, but it could have either had a new season in 2023 or we just first saw it or caught up with it in 2023.
Yes.
So Wolf's disappointment is the Nine Realms. Totally justified.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, we are How to Train Your Dragon fans here, and it's just disappointing to see that a potential really unique idea, right? That God, there's so much fan fiction for How to Train Your Dragon in modern day, right? So many
Yeah.
different stories out there and art out there of stuff you can see and and read and everything about it. And it's just disappointing to see that like you have the budget, right? You have everything at your fingertips that you would need to create something that's hopefully really interesting, and you just couldn't do it.
And now that the show ended, they kind of wasted it.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to surprise you and say that my disappointment isn't Nine Realms because how much can you be disappointed when you already know the show sucks? My disappointment was with a fairly recent movie, Disney's Wish.
Heard a lot of things about that one.
Everything you heard is probably true. Fuck this movie. Fuck this movie to hell and back. This is. You know how there are rumors about Disney using Chat GPT to write it? Listen, I didn't even need to the rumors to notice that. A computer wrote this. A robot without emotions wrote this movie, and the songs are terrible, the plot is boring, the characters are super bland, and the fact that it tries to be like, ooh, this is celebrating 100 years of Disney animation, and it's just, if this is how you celebrate it, might as well just not throw any parties whatsoever. This was abysmal. This is this is just terrible, terrible, terrible movie.
Fair.
We could make an entire podcast about how terrible it is, but that's for another day. So that was the disappointment part of the year. Um, new to this time, I have another category because I was just thinking it's funny looking back at everything that I
The award show
watched. Or
grows. And right now, we can't forget our sponsor this year either.
yeah, what is that?
Our sponsor is fucking Nyquil and Dayquil because we wouldn't be doing this shit. I was sick last week, ladies and gentlemen. It was awful. That's why you got no update or anything.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, this episode is somewhat not really, but maybe sponsored by. Well, so this year I decided to come up with a new category because when I was looking over stuff that I watched or played or read throughout the year, I realized that there was something that I thought would just be funny to bring up. So this is the "all right, you existed" reward for this year. If I had to pick, if I have to give you an example for what this means, if I had made up this award last year, Morbius would take that award because this is basically I don't hate you, but why are you the way you are? And Wolf, do you have anything that could fit this distinction?
I I don't think I have anything that fits that distinction exactly, but I do have something that fits the distinction of like, oh yeah, that came out this year and I totally forgot
Mhm.
about it.
Well, what was that?
Dragon Prince season 5, I think.
Oh, oh,
And it
yeah,
also
you're
kind of
right.
fits the other distinction too, but yeah, Dragon Prince season 5 came out this year and a lot of if you're if you're one of the people who loved
and
it, more
talk
power to
about
you, but
talk about came out. This was literally shadow dropped on us. It like struck like a ninja.
it came out and I just could not get into season 5. I just do not think
I
season 5 was
think
good.
I think actually looking back, this is one of my favorite podcasts that we did because you can tell that there are stuff that we love there and we like and we want to love it more, but we just can't.
There's just too many things that just stand out as like, "But why? Like, why did you do
Mhm.
that? Why is this way?" And it's like, maybe
Yeah.
season 6 will bring it back, but if it doesn't, man, that's gonna suck. And so, yeah, I think Dragon Prince gets that award for me.
Okay, so that award for me goes to Forspoken. Remember that?
No, I don't. I think that's the
Okay,
problem. The name sounds familiar, but no, I do not remember it.
so basically,
Yes, the game, the Square
the
Enix
game.
game.
So listen, I remember when this was announced and people just outright hated this game before they even played it. Like it just because ooh, the main character is so chatty and she's making pop cultural references and the comedy. It's like, bitch, you would act the same way if you got sudden superpowers. Okay, this is realistic. Don't tell me anything else. But I'll tell you what, I didn't see the hate from like the trailer. Like when I saw people like bashing this game online, I didn't see it. I didn't. So when it came out at the start of the year, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a shot. I'm gonna go in as you know as neutral as possible about this. I'm gonna see if it really turned out as bad, and it wasn't bad. It was even fun. I enjoyed my time with it, but at the same time, as soon as I beat it, I forgot all about it. I don't think I'll ever replay it again. And it's also nothing special whatsoever. It's a completely fine 6 or 7 out of 10 game.
Yeah, like, and I mean, sometimes that's all you need, right? There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong
sometimes
with
it's
it.
all you need, but like considering how, but when you see how many people just bash this game because of the
Yeah.
protagonist and like so if suddenly you think, wow, this was this year, huh? Well, I guess so. We're done with this. Moving on to honorable mentions. I have two. Wolf, what is your first honorable mention?
Ooh, honorable mention. That one's hard because there's so much good stuff that
And
came out
for the
this year,
record, I
right?
do want to point out, I guess I do want to point out 2023 had a lot of good stuff coming out. So just because we put something in honorable mention doesn't mean that it's like or that it's even bad or anything. It just means that we had more of a personal attachment or just overall more liking to the stuff that we put in the top five. Because I'm gonna tell you, one
Hmm.
of my honorable mentions is a fantastic thing. I won't say what it is yet,
Well,
but
for me, one of my honorable mentions has to be Nimona.
yeah, right. That was a really good one, man. I am sad now that I didn't put this anywhere, but but you know what?
Hey,
I
that's
guess
what I'm here for.
consider an honorable mention number three because yeah, Nemona is great.
Yeah. What's your
And
first honorable mention?
so my
We'll trade
first
off.
honorable mention is another animated movie, Elemental.
Yeah, that's the Pixar one, is it not?
Yep,
Yeah.
it's a Pixar movie that at first got really, it didn't do well at the box office, and then suddenly just picked up legs and started doing better. And Well, for the record, it's not the best Pixar movie by any stretch. It's not even the best Pixar movie since the start of the 2020s. But and there are some problems with the world building that it has. But when it's all said and done, I really enjoyed the main characters. I enjoyed seeing them together. There are some scenes which are just downright beautiful, both visually and in terms of what they're telling you without much dialogue. And it was also a really great date movie. I just really liked it.
Fair.
I think my fiance enjoyed it a bit more, but either way, I really liked
Very fair. For me,
it.
the next honorable mention I have would be The Witcher season 3. It's very much like
I ha- I have to disagree with you there. I couldn't care
my
less.
list now. Get
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
here.
of course, of course, of course, of
No,
course, of course.
it's just again, I love The Witcher. It's one of those things that's very like, near and dear to me, and I think season 3 is a great send-off season for Henry Cavill, right? And I hope they can keep a lot of the same steam and a lot of the same, ideas going into season 4. But we'll see. Maybe it gets a lot worse. Maybe it gets even better. I hope the latter option. We will see, but at the very least, we got our first 3 seasons, and while it had a little bit of its ups and downs, it was overall a fairly strong show, and I definitely highly enjoyed it. So,
Yeah. So fingers crossed for that. So my second honorable mention, another video game adaptation in the form of a show, The Last of Us.
really, only an honorable mention.
This is one I considered putting this in my top five, but then some things in the top five were just meant a lot more to me personally in
That's
a lot
fair.
of ways. And to be honest, and for the record, The Last of Us is a fantastic show. It's a great
Mm,
adaptation, and it definitely. And I'm so happy that this show is getting a lot of positive attention because this is like the first video game show that I think is nominated for like some of the big awards, like best drama show or
mm,
best, and which is fantastic. But so the reason I decided to put it as only an honorable mention is because at the end of the day, it is an adaptation, and even though it adds a lot to the game, and the stuff that it adds is wonderful, I still think knowing the game, having played the game, loved the game, and knowing where everything heads, in what direction everything is going, it does take away from some of the suspense because I know where the plot is going. So maybe it's only an honorable mention because of that. But let it be a and let it be a sign to how great 2023 was for TV shows and movies and games when The Last of Us show is only an honorable mention.
agreed.
That being said, I am done with my honorable mentions. Do you have
Mm.
anything to, or are we moving on to number five?
No. Let's number 5 it up.
Okay, then number
Let's
five for
start
you.
counting. Oh, number 5 for me. God, I'm first. No. Um, number 5
You were
for
for
me
you were
is Ruby Volume 9. I finally get to do one of these. Almost every time
okay.
since we started doing this, Ruby has always started around the end of the year, and so I'm never able to do this because one of our stipulations is it has to have finished airing this year, or it has to have finished
Mhm.
airing before the award show at least, even if it didn't
Yeah.
come out this year technically. But Ruby
Hmm.
Volume 9 finished airing this year, and so I can finally say, yeah, like, hey, Ruby, it's a show that is, again, very near and dear to my heart. I love it to death, probably always will. And Volume 9, I think, came out and had to fill in a lot of, it had to do a lot of lifting, right? A lot of work. A lot of people weren't super happy with 7 and 8. I thought they were great, but there was definitely some ups and downs in there, I will admit. And a lot of people came into Volume 9, it's like, Volume 8, what do we think? There's some trepidation going into it. And I think they nailed it. I think they came back and they did extremely well. And I hope because of that, it's garnered enough attention and enough interest again that they're able to greenlight Volume 10 eventually.
Yeah, like as someone who started to maybe overly criticize Ruby, but criticizing it nonetheless for how convoluted it became with volume 7 and 8. Is volume 9 was a breath of fresh air. It was a really good volume.
Agreed. So yeah, number
So
5.
number 5 for me, it's I'm going to warn, I'm doing this a lot, and that's that I'm pairing a lot of stuff that's like under a franchise in one category. I
Mm-hmm.
can do this because I make the rules. So
Fair.
number 5 for me is a lot of TMNT stuff. TMNT stands for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to those who don't know. But starting off with what actually came this year, the new animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I was excited for this one because we get another theatrical ninja animated Ninja Turtles movie produced by Seth Rogen, who I fucking love,
Fair.
and also the art style that takes like the Spider Verse style that we start to see take over, and I'm kind of happy about it. But it really does its own unique thing because if Spider Verse looks like a comic book coming to life, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish looks like a fairy tale book coming to life, this one looks like a like a notebook doodle. Like like from the character designs and the way that lighting works and other stuff, it's a really interesting take on this visual style, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I love how the turtles are actually played by teenagers and just let them do their camaraderie without much without much interference.
Mm-hmm.
And other stuff other stuff in it is that I just love this new take. It is one of those things that might take some longtime fans a bit of readjustment to, like, oh, this is a change that I'm not sure about. But the more I look at it, the more it's fine for this version, and I am excited to see the future they are going to take with this incarnation. Other than that, I caught up on the Last Ronin comic and the Last Ronin Last Years, which you can
Mm-hmm.
hear about in our podcast about it from a few weeks ago. Wolf would agree with me on that. And so, fantastic comic. And also, I gave Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles another shot after when it premiered. The first episode didn't really do it for me, but hearing some stuff, I decided to give the show another look. And it's really funny. It got really awesome animation, and the movie which wraps it all up is I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that. So the Ninja Turtles take over number 5 for me.
Fair. So, moving on to number 4.
Number 4, hit me. What do you got?
Number 4 for me is another show that's near and dear to my heart, and I have practically grown up with this, and because it's so long and will continue to get longer, I will probably die with it. But it released something very different this year, and that is One Piece, the live action,
I was
because
considering I was considering putting it somewhere too because it was really good.
it is really good. Like, I don't think we've seen, like, out of the live action Netflix adaptations we've gotten so far this year, or gotten all so far altogether, I think One Piece has been the best. And
Just
it's
Netflix. I would even say the live action anime adaptation in general. Was there ever a good one before this one?
no.
There you go.
But I think One Piece has definitely set the bar at a much different level now. And let's be honest, it's still live action. There's still some goofiness here, but I think because it's One Piece and One Piece is just this goofy thing at heart, it lends itself so well to being made into live action. So you can have those live action, B elements, and it feels goofy and a little bit, silly, but it just works, right? It just works for it so well. And as we mentioned in our review of it, you can feel all of the heart and everything that went into it from all the actors and actresses and everyone on the team, right? Like, there's just so much love that's been thrown into this, and it's so nice to get to see One Piece get something that is approachable, that people can go and watch. But hey, guess what? It's even more exciting because they've actually announced, hey, we're doing another One Piece anime. We're going back to where One Piece started at, same with the live action, and we're going to say, hey, let's redo that, but let's do it now because we know the whole story practically. at this point. Let's redo all that now and make it better, hopefully. So
Mm.
it's fascinating. We're getting more and more One Piece now. That we're just doing more stuff now. I love this, and I can't wait
Apparently,
to see
not
it.
sure. Did you hear about the announcement that like the Spy X Family Studio is gonna do a retelling of the start of the anime in
Yeah, yeah, that's
animation?
what I just mentioned. Yeah, they're going
Oh,
to
okay.
do a brand new anime from the Spy X Family Studio, from the Spy X
Yeah,
Family Studio, and they're basically retelling it, remaking the animation, and retelling it, and hopefully everyone's like, maybe it'll be quick. It won't be the Funimation pace this time.
yeah.
It'll be
I
quicker
think
and be more
m-
approachable.
fiance showed me the trailer, and I'm like, listen, I am
I
gonna watch that because maybe this will end, and I won't have to catch up on like 1,000 episodes.
At the
Maybe.
very least, by the time it comes out and by the time it's done, like by the time it's ready to start covering the newer stuff, maybe Oda will be done. We can only
Maybe.
hope. But yeah,
Hmm.
like I love One Piece. It's always been a thing for me. It's nice to see things that people can get into and can approach and have fun with now with One Piece as well because I understand One Piece is huge. That's a large commitment you're choosing to make when you jump into it. But I will always say that it is and has always been worth it. But I understand. So it's
All right.
nice that there's things out there that exist for it. And this is one of them.
Indeed, and also I also really enjoy that. Definitely one of my surprises this year. So with that said, number four for me, this is a big one, but hear me out. So after years of playing with at a friend's house or something, HC has done the unbelievable. He bought a Nintendo Switch for himself.
Shock surprise.
So my number four is
Yes, even
basically listen, I caught up on a lot of Nintendo this year. A lot. I caught up with a lot of Mario's 3D outings. I managed to get my hands on a copy of 3D All Stars, which I was able to
sponsored
play
by Nintendo.
Sunshine. Huh?
We're sponsored by Nintendo as well. We forgot to mention. There are.
Sure. If we were sponsored by Nintendo, then oh boy. But I managed to catch up on a lot of Mario stuff. I managed to get the 3D All Stars. From somewhere, I was able to play Sunshine and Galaxy for the first time. Sunshine was frustrating. Galaxy was awesome. Odyssey was also awesome. 3D World was fun, and just this year, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, one of my favorite games this year. Really fun game. Really, really enjoyed it. I guess maybe even my new favorite 2D Mario. And on that note, come on, I got a Switch this year and I didn't play Tears of the Kingdom. What can I say about this that no one else has ever said? Besides the fact that I think it's a bit too bloated for its own good sometimes, but I'll be a fool to say this game does not have quality. This game is amazing. I really liked it, and it was an experience that I'll remember for a long time. Other than that, I was also able to catch up on Metroid with the Metroid Prime Remaster and Metroid Dread. I was able to catch up on Luigi's Mansion 3, Kirby and the Last Kingdom, the Bayonetta games. One of them came out this year, Cereza and the Last Demon. I played a lot on my Switch this year as either a backup or something that came out this year, and I enjoyed most, if not all of it. So I guess just the Nintendo Switch. That's my number four.
That's fair. That is absolutely fair. There's been a lot of good games that come out on all the consoles, but yes, Switch has had a good year this year, I think. Most definitely.
Mm.
And while I enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom, right, for me, it wasn't as big of a thing. It was more of a thing of, if you've played Breath of the Wild, it wasn't as big
To
for you. It
be
wasn't
honest,
as amazing for you, but I think that's okay.
yeah, to be honest, it's not a 10 out of 10 game for me either. But I can't deny I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely fair. 100% fair. It is probably one of the greatest expansions you can play.
And I will say this: I just because the entire Nintendo Switch stuff is on number four doesn't mean that I like Tears of the Kingdom less than some of the games that are gonna pop up. But at the
Fair.
same, but the games that are gonna pop up later just have more of a sentimental value for me. So,
That is fair.
so with that said, Wolf, what is your number three?
Number three for me is a it's one that you got me interested in. Actually, it's the one
Hmm.
that one that you and one of our guests, who I will not name just yet to keep it suspenseful, got me interested in, and actually really surprised me. I didn't expect to get as interested in this. I didn't think it'd be something that I would enjoy as much, but turns out, yeah, it's actually really good, and I'm very excited and can't wait to see season three of the show, and that is Good Omens.
All right, nice.
Good Omens, getting to see season one and season two of that this year definitely caught me off guard, and it was definitely something that was very enjoyable and really good. Like everything about it, is just fun. I guess I don't know how better to explain it other than it is a really good show and it is definitely worth your time. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, but seeing David Tennant and
Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen, couldn't remember his name, David Tennant and Michael Sheen playing off of one another is so good. Their chemistry is just wonderful on that show, and their characters they play is fun. It's definitely seeing the take in two vastly different stories for season one and season two is also just interesting. There's so much good stuff going into that show, and between you and Torio and getting to talk with you both about it for the podcast as well, just good fun, good times, very good show. Can't wait to see season
Well,
three of it. Very excited.
I definitely agree that it's a really good show. Season two, I didn't like as much, but it was still a great time.
I got to watch both
So,
seasons this year, so that's why it gets number three on the list.
fair enough. So, number three for me. Guess what? It's a list made by HC, so you know who's gonna show up. It's our favorite blue hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog. While going down from number one last year to number three, I still think the Hedgehog had a good year. Like from season two of Sonic Prime, which I really enjoyed and thought it was better overall. We got the Sonic Frontiers DLC, like a bunch of updates, all free for the record, that Sega released throughout the year, including new modes, new additions, and and a new final chapter, an alternative final chapter for the game, which is hard as balls. And if you've been on the internet when that DLC came out, fuck. Somebody made it a bit unfair. I will explain to you in afterwards if you want. But other than that, we also got a new 2D platformer, Sonic Superstars, which, while it wasn't superior to the wonderful Sonic Mania, it's still, I would say, a very good game with great level design, great gimmicks. I love how it looks. I like how it plays. I think it was just the right length. The multiplayer is a bit wonky, not a bit, it's really wonky, and the boss fights are a bit of a weak point, but at the same time, I overall had more to like about the game than to criticize about it. And the biggest surprise, the Apple exclusive Sonic Dream Team, which I didn't expect to be as good and as polished as it was, but I'm not gonna complain. This was a really nice surprise. So it's great to see my blue boy still doing good, still managing to be out up there, and Sega just keeps showing me that they know what they're doing and they know what to do in the future. I trust them, and this year didn't give me any reason to worry.
Fair.
I know you have nothing good to say about Sonic. I get you. Moving on.
Sonic is good. Sonic is fine. I'm just not as big into it as you are, but it's definitely good. And like from what you have gotten into and
Also,
shown me, I've enjoyed what I've seen.
because I also know that you're not big into platformers in general, so it's not your thing anyhow.
No, unfortunately not. But there's still some good stuff. I can understand and see that. But the final two were there, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
I actually one thing to note, real quick about number three. When I say that what the hell was the difficulty in the Frontiers DLC and some parts of Superstars. They actually patched the Frontiers DLC to be more accessible and more without taking away much of the challenge. Like the challenge is still there, but they toned it down a bit so that it's not unfair. So you know what? Credit to them for actually listening. I will give them all the credit for that. That's it. Number two for you. Go.
Number two. Number two is one that caught me a little bit off guard this year. I did not. It's not anything that I think is amazing or you definitely want to write home about this. That's how good this is. It did something that I've not seen many shows do even now yet. I think we're getting there, but I've still not seen too many shows do this yet. And it did something that I've especially not seen many anime do before. And what I'm talking about is my number two. I'm in love with the villainess. This show does something in about episode 3 where you just see characters candidly talk about the fact that, hey, I'm gay. That's not usual for anime. Seeing that, in my
Listen,
opinion.
you can't see my face, but I was having this kind of face because I shit you not, at the start of the year, I bought the first volume of the manga for a friend for her birthday.
Aw.
Because I just read the title. I'm like, that's so her. She's going to love it. It has a gay couple and it's falling off with the villainess. It's like the two things she loves the most.
And
And
well,
but
here
the
we
thing
are.
is, but the thing is that I have no idea what it's gonna be about. And now suddenly you say that there's an anime which premiered this year and that it's one of your favorite. That's like you're
No,
talking about
like
the cosmic entity.
it's really good. Like I think it's honestly good enough that we should probably cover it at some point in the future.
Oh, definitely. I'm in. I'm in.
But no,
Just tell me
like
when.
it was very interesting to getting to see episode 3 and just the characters, because anime, generally speaking, when it does same sex relationships or just relationships in general, but especially same sex, it generally tends to keep the attraction very person centric. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. Not
Mhm,
like, it never focuses on the gender of it. It just focuses on the person of it. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but it's nice to see a show that says, hey, you're gay. Let's talk about that candidly. Let's just, like, have a conversation about that for a brief bit, right? And the
mhm,
conversation they have, I thought, was really good and really, like, really self-explanatory. Not self-explanatory, but just really explanatory of the feeling, right, of being gay and being in love with someone who may not necessarily be in love with you, right? But yeah, you're still in
mhm,
love with them, and just some good stuff going on there. And the show continued on being just a generally fun and enjoyable time the entire way through its run, and with some sprinkled in, like, wow, holy shit, that's interesting that they covered things that way. That's really cool. That's kind of more than I expected from the show. So yeah, it gets number two for me. It came out of very close to the end of the year here, actually, and
mhm.
blew me away for the season. And again, that's saying a lot because there's a lot of good stuff this season, and there's so much other stuff. Like, I would love, if it wasn't for this, and if it wasn't for the fact that it was still unfortunately airing, Apothecary Diaries might be in this place instead. But it's still airing at the moment, and this actually managed to finish just in time before we covered. So this takes number two
Well,
spot for me. But again, like, so much good stuff, so much good stuff.
awesome.
So yeah,
So
I'm in love with
my
the
number
villainess.
two. Okay, I am definitely interested now. So number two for me. This is a show that I completely by happenstance happened to come across, and I think this is another one that I want to cover at some point when we find the time for it.
Hmm.
Um, so to those who don't know the name Ryan Johnson, he directed Star Wars: The Last Jedi. If this makes you cringe, then he also directed two great cinematic movies that we discussed. I think it was earlier this year or at the end of last year. Knives Out and Glass Onion.
Hmm.
So now Ryan Johnson is now moving to TV with a new mystery show called Poker Face, which is my number two. So,
Mm.
so one, Ryan Johnson. The guy knows what the fuck he's doing. Let's start with that. two, I love mystery shows and movies and stuff, and I have to say this is one of the most unique mystery shows that I've got to see, and part of it is honestly thanks to the main character. The main character is so it, not I don't want to say that she's new because maybe other shows did that and I just don't know, but like she's so unique to this type of show, and the situations she gets into are also very interesting and unique, and each episode kind of feel like its own mini movie to an extent.
Hmm,
And like she carries this show, and the mysteries she's a part of are are written and presented in a way that's interesting for you to know in terms of not necessarily what the solution is, but how it's gonna be figured out. And
hmm.
it's such a fun show. It's intense, it's funny, it's really everything you can ask for in a mystery show. If you like Knives Out and Glass Onion, then you're definitely going to enjoy this one.
I'll definitely have to check this
my
one out.
biggest my biggest recommendation goes to Poker Face, and yes, I will ask you to cover it at some point this upcoming year,
No, I'm definitely
because I know
interested.
I know that the season two because I know that the season two is coming. So that's
Mm. Well, you heard it here first, folks. I'm in love with the villainous and Poker Face, two future
Mhm.
Outcast episodes.
you got two, so you got you
That's our
got
now
two.
that those are our big world premiere.
Yeah, I guess our Berkcast direct.
Number one,
Number one, Wolf.
number one for me is definitely a. So number one for me is one we've already mentioned in this
Mhm.
very episode, as mentioned by
Oh,
HC, which surprised me that it didn't make it into his top five this year. But for me, it did, and I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that I hadn't played the game yet before watching that, and that it for watching it,
mhm.
and that is The Last of Us. This
which for the
show,
record, very well deserved.
yeah, no,
Thank you for putting it under.
like I mean, again, like I had very little to no familiarity with the game, right? So for me, this was a brand new experience, and getting to see it on the big screen and getting to see just the amount of like effort that went into this show. This show is absolutely, number one, it's great to watch and to look at, but number two, the characters, like the story, just the writing, everything about this is so well done, right? Hell, I think it's the episode with Bill and what is his name?
Oh yeah, yeah. Bill and Frank. Bill and
Bill and
Frank.
Frank, that's it. Like that alone, I have since watching the show went and played, gotten the game and played it, right? And
Mhm.
the amount of expansion they did to that story alone
Yeah, I
is,
mentioned this also when we covered it. That episode is like what launches the show from just a simple adaptation to whoa.
yeah, like I think that's the moment where, okay, this has this is something now, right? Because playing the game now, that storyline is very, it's meh. There's nothing to it. There's a little bit of background stuff going on, but there's
It's
really nothing to
that's
it.
the thing. That's the thing. It's a background thing. You
Like,
don't see any of it
and for the game, that's fine. There's no way you can tell that kind of story in the game. You know,
unless you do a flashback and completely ignore the point. But
yeah,
so
but for the show, you can do that. You can set all that up, and I would continue to argue that could be a small, short show thing in and of itself, right? Like, hey, here's a one
yeah.
episode thing that a studio just decided to do for the hell of it, for fun, and they're putting out.
Hmm.
You could literally do that, and it would be perfectly fine. Hell, you could maybe even make that into a short movie, and it'd be perfectly fine by itself. That's how
Hmm.
good it is. But
Yeah.
even the rest of the show is so good. Like it's nice that we can sit back and say like, hey, we've had quite a few, but now we have like, I think we've seen the top tier of video game adaptations now. Of this is the highest echelon you can currently reach, and
Yeah, this
this is like,
I even mentioned the fact that it was only an honorable mention for me shows how great of a year this was.
mm,
And
agreed.
I think again the only reason that I kind of put it up below is that because with the exception of that episode that you mentioned, I did just know the game, so some of the tension got
Wasn't there
lost
for me.
for
And
me.
I think that's fair. I think knowing the story going into it, I think that definitely would downgrade it a little bit in terms of the experience you're getting because you've already experienced all of this to some degree. I think for me,
Mhm.
not being as experienced with the game, that helped a lot, right? So
Yeah.
it definitely made it a lot more memorable in my mind and it stuck with me a lot more than it did people who've already played through it and seen it, I think.
Although, again, that one episode you mentioned, that caught everyone by surprise because
Which
holy
is fair.
shit.
Because and again, I think they picked the right thing to do there.
Hmm.
I don't think there's much having played the game now, I don't think there's much you can expand upon in the same way you could that story.
Yes.
So yeah,
So
number
yeah,
1, The
but
Last of
so
Us.
I'm glad that you at least put it in number one because that way
It
everyone's
deserves it.
happy.
I can't not.
Hmm. So to me, number one. So let's see. I mentioned The Last of Us and Elemental in the honorable mentions. I talked about Turtles, the Nintendo Switch, a Blue Hedgehog, and a show by the guy who made Knives Out. And yet, maybe expected if you know me. Maybe you think I'm insane, but at the top of the list is just a guy from Queens slash Brooklyn because the number one thing for me this year has been has been two things under the Spider-Man franchise. One of them has been Across the Spider-Verse, which we talked
Mm.
about on the podcast, and the other one is Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. You moaned there. What is your
No, I
problem?
said, like I agree with you.
Ah,
Like
okay.
Spider Verse, right? I've not seen or played anything of Spider Man 2 because unfortunately that's trapped on PlayStation at the moment, but maybe one day. But Spider
Mhm.
Verse, 100% agreed with you. That movie
So
was phenomenal.
so the reason it's number one for me, besides the fact that I'm a big Spider-Man guy, I can't stress enough because I think if you go back to the podcast we did, I mention a lot of times that I think some stuff I need to like let them sink in until I decide. Like I think it was a movie that wasn't necessarily digestible after one viewing, and I
Fair.
need more time to let it stew. But now this is rare for me that I watch a 2.5 hours long movie in theaters and then I watch it 5 to 6 times more while when it's out on home media,
Mm.
and the 2.5 hours just fly by. I don't even notice that the time is gone. That is so rare. And the other thing, the animation, like what the original Spider-Verse did for animation 5 years ago, this movie just completely upgraded it in every scene. Every frame is just beautiful to look at. Wonderful.
Hmm.
And the story, the way they managed to sneak in some details about which is you can also argue kind of meta commentary about how people view stories and how stories are told and what we expect of them is so smart, so genuine, and I think most of all compelling. This is a really compelling movie. And while you could argue that the way it ends kind of means that it's not its own movie because you need to wait for a part two, I honestly think that's one of the things here. The movie plays by its own rules, and I appreciate a movie that just put itself that can just put itself out there, and whether or not people like it or not, they don't care. They put their best foot forward, and they say, "This is how we play the game. If you don't like it, that's your thing." I love this kind of ballsiness, and it's just everything about this movie is just so good. It's a miracle a movie like this can exist. And
Fair.
on the other end, we have Spider-Man 2, the game, the Insomniac Spider-Man 2, not the PS1 game with Electro, and not the game based on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. I need to make that
What?
distinction.
They were
So,
fine.
okay, but for the record, Insomniac Spider Man is one of my favorite games of all time, period, bar none. And well, the sequel doesn't, and the sequel kind of does. Spider-Man 2 does kind of what Tears of the Kingdom did to Breath of the Wild. It may be like you might explore some of the same areas, but and you get more areas to explore in this one, but you get new abilities and a lot of other movement upgrades and options, which just makes it one, more fun to play, and two, you can also customize the web swinging to be as how you like it to be. Like if the web swinging for the first game felt too simple for you, you can tweak it to how much control you want of it, and kind of make it as challenging or as hand holding as you want.
which
You
is
are not.
which is nice
It's
because the web swinging in the first game already felt good in my opinion.
Yeah. So now imagine that they also allow you to determine how much control you want over that. You can
Which
enable
is
fall damage if you want it. You can enable how much you can control the momentum with the analog stick. These are such little details which make the game so much more fun for and give you the ideal way to play. You are not
mm,
forced to play by certain rules. You make the rules. And other than that, just being able to play as both Peter and Miles, who are both are phenomenal characters. They both have story moments which are just fan fucking tastic. I know people complain it's not even it doesn't even take a triple amount of hours to beat the whole thing. I
ah,
don't fucking care. This game is fun. This game got me until the moment I beat it. It's one of my favorite games this year. I can't praise it enough. And yeah, that's why I feel Spidey deserves the top spot.
fair. He's had a really good year. End of
Hmm.
discussion.
Also,
Even if you're not into the game, Spider Verse alone, he's had a good year.
how ironic that both the first Insomniac Spider-Man and Into the Spider-Verse came out the same year, and now Across the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2 came out the same year.
That planning, yo.
Um, Actually, without spoiling too much, Spider-Man 2 does have an Easter egg which connects to the movie, but I
I'm not
won't say what it
surprised.
is. Mhm. So, okay, we've done with the
Yeah,
list. I
the
guess this is the
Outcast
point.
Awards.
Yeah, I guess this is the point where we ask each other 2024 is right around the corner. What are you
Oh
looking
man,
forward to?
there's from what I understand, a lot of new anime coming out, a lot of old anime returning. Something that I think we've been waiting 10 years for. Blue Exorcist is finally getting another season. I think it's been 10 years. I want to say 10 years, maybe less. I'm old,
Mhm.
time starts to blur together, but that's one. Like there's so many other good stuff. Um like like some of the shows we mentioned here, Last of Us. I know it's not coming out next year, but god, I want to see
I
season
don't
2 of that.
think I don't think season 2 of that is gonna come out until 2025.
Yeah. But maybe we'll get some little tidbits, right? Can't wait to see that
Maybe.
because that'll be amazing.
If you played Last of Us 2, you might.
But I mean, again, right? I've heard a lot of the story about the Last of Us 2 game, so I'm curious to see like can they take that and turn it in. That one's going to be super interesting to watch because
Because I can tell you right now, the director of the games, Neil Druckmann, actually came out and said we're not gonna change anything major in The Last of Us 2's adaptation. If people have a problem with that, they can suck it. He didn't say it in those exact words, but
we'll
that was the
see, right? Because you
implication.
never know. 2 years,
All I'm gonna
all the
say,
time working on that show could change a lot, but
of course,
I'm
but I'm
curious.
just gonna say, I'm not gonna judge it before I watch, even if I
Absolutely
know the
fair.
game. But I will say to the actress who's gonna play Abby, I am not jealous of you, and I'm wishing you the best. Good luck.
Yeah. Definitely got an uphill battle from what I understand.
Hmm. So okay, so Last of Us. So anything else that you are like looking forward to, which might actually come out next year?
I mean, we have our staple shonen coming back for next year. My Hero, Demon Slayer's getting its next arc. There's a lot of good stuff to look forward to, right?
I think some stuff for me is I'm not sure if you've seen the trailer for it, but Godzilla X Kong is coming out next year, and it
Yeah.
looks really cool. I am excited as a fan of Godzilla, and on that note, No, I haven't seen Godzilla minus one yet because guess what? It didn't come out where I live, so I have to wait until I get to see it. And once it's out on home media, most likely we are gonna cover it. But right now, the reason it's not on my list is because it didn't come out where I am, so I
Fair,
can't watch it. Fuck.
fair.
But so that's the reason why it's not on this list. But otherwise, this is something I'm looking forward to. I mentioned Sonic, so of course I'm excited for the third movie and the Knuckles show that's coming out. The Knuckles show was supposed to come out this year, but I guess they delayed it because of all the strikes. Not entirely sure,
Mm.
but these are two things that I'm really looking forward to. And Sonic Prime Season 3, we are gonna cover that in 2 weeks. And other than that, I'm trying to think if there was anything else. One thing that I'm looking forward to, but not necessarily because I think it's gonna be good, but I'm curious to see how the reception for it would be, is the Suicide Squad game.
I feel like that one's gonna be bad, but we'll see.
No, because
I agree
listen,
with you. I'm interested.
listen. The game was scenarios from the game were leaked not too long ago, and it sounds like disaster is striking.
Mm, I'm not surprised,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So I'm curious
Oh,
to see what the launch for this game is gonna be like. But
something
and
else
I
I forgot
yeah.
to mention.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. The Fallout
Okay.
show. We're getting another video game adaptation. I'm
Uh,
very curious because that
which one?
one, the Fallout show, that's coming out on Amazon. I believe it's in January. That's coming
Hmm.
out, yeah, this coming January. Yeah, looking at it, and that's going to be out on Amazon. And I'm very
Mm,
interested in that one because the way that one looks, it's either going to be good or bad, and I don't know if there's going to be any between whatsoever. It's just one or the other. I think.
never played Fallout, but I hope it's good for the
I
fans.
love good old Fallout. It's fun.
The other thing that I'm interested in, because I think it's coming out relatively early this year, the live action Avatar show on Netflix, because
Yeah.
this is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be something, all right.
I hope if it's good, I hope it's really good. If it's bad, I hope it's really bad. Right?
Well, you can do worse than the Shyamalan movie.
No, you can't because like the Shyamalan movie is not even funny is the problem. You get the one scene of all the earthbenders bending the rock. That's the one funny thing, and the rest of
Like
it's kind of just ugh.
it's that, and the Water Tribe's princesses dildo hell. It's those
Yeah.
two things.
Yeah, like those are the two things you can laugh at and that are funny about it, and the rest of it's just boring. That's what it is, which is sad.
Yeah.
So I hope if this one comes out and is bad, it's bad, so we can actually genuinely laugh at it. And if it's good,
Uh,
great.
um,
We need a Avatar needs a W, man, for live action. We need a
yeah.
W. One other thing
So
I would
I
like to
want to
mention.
hope that it's. Yeah,
Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to say I really hope it's good because Avatar deserves it.
It does, 100%. One other thing I'd like to mention that I'm curious and can't wait to see, and I believe it's also coming out in January. I think, not
Hmm?
entirely sure. Is the
Which one?
we already covered the web series this creator does, Fizzy Pop, a hell of a boss, but Has Been Hotel is getting its
Oh
Amazon
yeah,
release.
that's coming out and it sounds really interesting. I am definitely interested in that.
So,
Like
you
if
know, all
we
the
said that
praise to her.
2020,
She absolutely deserves it. She has created
Mhm,
some great shows and done some great stuff.
that
So
she did.
it's great to
Um,
see that she's getting
as
the
much as
recognition she deserves.
definitely, and we say that 2023 was packed. 2024, I hope I'm gonna be able to catch up on everything. There's no
Yeah,
time.
a lot of good stuff coming out in the next few years. So it's nice to see.
Hmm. But until then, I guess this is it for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed and we hope you had a fantastic 2023. What were your top five things this year and what stuff are you looking forward to in 2024? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. So until the next episode and the next year, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.